Okay.
Okay, and we're back. Thank you, everybody. We're back with Dani Katz, part 2. We're having a great conversation, speaking of, just now, of speaking our truth, of being brave or not, and of learning to follow your own truth, right? To, like you were saying, of wearing the mask as an example. Maybe in this half I can feel a little bit more protected, being that we're going to be sharing it with a smaller audience. But yeah, using the mask and asking yourself, okay, can I live with myself if I do this thing that I know is wrong? Like for myself, I've thought about it a lot, and like I think every place here that is closed, you need to wear the mask. So I thought, okay, so I'll just go to another supermarket, even though this one is like 2 blocks away, which is very convenient for me. I'll just go to another one. But anywhere you go, except of course in restaurants, where, as we all know, viruses don't like restaurants. So people can, I mean, they don't like restaurant tables, because when you're walking, you should wear it. And when you sit down, that's when you can take it off, because the viruses are repelled by food. So, yeah.
Such a clever virus, and so amazing our scientists who have figured out their biorhythms in this way. It's really a testament to humanity's awesomeness.
Right, the viruses are going for lunch themselves, so at lunchtime you can go out. Yeah, again, like the vampires, right? It's like, is a vampire? Yeah, only at night they come out. So during the day you're free.
Exactly, because I hear there are parts of the world that are on curfews during this, because apparently, yes, the virus is much more virulent at night and when we're not in restaurants. And also if you're not an elite who's going to maybe the Met Gala or the Emmys, apparently viruses don't like that situation either.
Yeah. No, it's very, very crazy all that's going on. I mean, there's no words to describe the craziness of everything that's going on, like the inconsistencies, the rules, the different ways of approaching things in different parts of the world, and the different results. And then people not having a capacity to say, oh, so they did this here and it worked maybe better, so let's copy that. No, let's just do whatever our fear tells us, because fear is the king.
It's crazy. I did not realize humanity was this stunted. It's really shocking. I think that's the biggest shock for me, is that this is where my fellow humans are at.
And in a way, again, looking at it from the bright side, that's a great, although a painful learning, it's a great learning, because I had this idea that, yeah, humanity is like 12 years old or whatever before this. But now I see it, and it's like confirmed, or even deeper, like 7 or 5 years old. It's like we are, and yeah, it hurts to see that, because again, it's also a reflection of parts of ourselves. But it's important to see this shadow of humanity, and like for me, a very important part of my process was going through my own dark night of the soul when I was like 25, around that age, and yeah. Maybe you went through something yourself, so you can relate, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but I learned so much from that period of my life. And the fact that I was able to learn and go through that is what opened this. The pendulum went completely to the other side after that period, and it opened me up to so much expansion into learning about myself and connecting dots about my past and my future, and where I need to, not need, but where I want to go, where I want to express myself, and to how I can be more of myself. You know, I learned so much through that, and after that my point is that even though I wouldn't wish it on anybody necessarily, I see that it's a very great learning experience, and humanity is going through something like that, I guess. And if for me, I could say, I don't know how long it was, but let's say it was a couple of years or something around there. If we were to like go fractally upwards to the whole of humanity. I don't know how long this deep dive into the dark night of the soul will take. I hope it's as short as possible, so that on the other side there is lots of learning, lots of expansion, lots of new understandings of who we are, you know. And I think, and I'll wrap up my my extended thing here, but I think what might be on the other side is like, I wonder what are things that we haven't. We've created technology, we've created comfort, etc., etc. What's those things that are already still like on the fringe, which seem like impossible, as technology was impossible like 100 years ago, the technology we have. And I think it's gonna go towards the mystical side, towards the invisible side of the world, the psychic abilities that we might have, connection with other types of conscious beings. So I don't know, maybe that's what we're going through this dark period, in order to grow up and be able to see those other aspects of life, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you on the last bit. And as someone I've had more dark nights of the soul than I can count, truly. And unlike you, who doesn't wish them on anyone, I wish them on everyone, because I think that's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with now. And I have a theory that if you have not found yourself curled up fetal, sobbing your guts out, in like so much existential terror, then you don't know yourself and you're not an adult, right? I think and right now I'm rereading Right Use of Will, which is, are you familiar with that book?
I know about it, but haven't read it.
It's one of my favorite books. If I had to choose one book that would be required reading for all of humanity, it would be that one. Second would be mine. And I'm rereading it now. In that book, you know, it's channeled, and it's allegedly channeled through God, you know, whatever we all have different words for that, but I'm just going to use that one as shorthand. And God in this book speaks about the time we're in now and says, the earth wants to go back to being a paradise, which means there's no room for denial. And those who aren't willing to face their denial and acknowledge it and integrate and come to the other side, they're not going to be able to survive at this frequency, because the earth is upgrading. And I agree with you. I think it is going to lead to supernatural powers. I think we've been limited by this density and by you know, what they call denial, by disempowerment, by hierarchy, by, you know, all of the programming. And I think we're at a place where we've maxed out on it, right? And now I feel like it's an ascend, or I hate to say perish, but it kind of seems like that's what's happening. You know, who knows what's going to happen with all these people who have allowed themselves to be lab rats for, you know, criminal pharmaceutical cabals. And of course, I hope the best, but it just seems like, yeah, we're in the middle of a huge upgrade. And I do believe that it will lead to supernatural powers that we have yet to grok, to wrap our minds around. And yeah, this illusion of separation from other beings, interdimensional beings, off-planet beings, I think that that's about to shift in a big way.
Yeah,
that is shifting.
The perspective, I think, is the point of view is in a way what I think is going to shift most. Like, we are so identified with the body, we're so identified with the mind, and everything else seems like not me, right? But I love Alan Watts, for example. The way he describes things, his logic, his reasonings are so perfect for me. I totally get them. And when he talks about ideas of like, where does the tree end and you start? Or other people have said, for example, the tree is the external part of your respiratory system, for example. So learning to see things in new perspectives, in new ways, I think that's what's gonna be like the signature of the change. We're gonna stop seeing things from such a limited perspective, such a limited point of view, and start moving like backwards in our perspective, like from first person to third person, something like that. Like our awareness we might be able to feel like we are also that other person, that other being, that planet. I think there's going to be some kind of upgrade in our perspective, is the way that I'm sensing it.
Yeah, I like that. And that resonates, because the illusion of our separation is like one of the hallmarks of the suffering that we experience here. And so much of the strife is that we don't understand that we're a unified species of earthlings. Literally everything on this planet is an earthling. And it feels like that is a part of the upgrade. And it also feels like the beings who aren't ready or who aren't willing to avail themselves to that oneness, to that level of consciousness are, I mean, I don't understand how it's going to work. If it's a split, if it's happening on different dimensions in different realms, like, I don't get it. And I agree with what you say as far as a more unified way of engaging just capital L life.
You know, sometimes I think that maybe the way that it might happen, like you do this, like they're going to be swept out of the planet or something, and it's hard to think about it, or a bifurcation, like two planets being created in different dimensions or something. But I think it's kind of all of that at the same time, and more like what might happen is that from your perspective, you will not cross paths with the people that are so different in their frequency, right? So they might still be living on what we could call the same planet, walking on the same ground, breathing the same air, but in some way they'll be like, or maybe completely focused on the mainstream happenings of the world, whereas others will be focused on the new earth. And so simply just by the amount of hours in the day, you won't have time to connect with those people in a one-on-one kind of way. I guess it could be kind of like that, you know, like there's no need for, this is the maybe it's kind of an innocent kind of view, but like no need for anybody to die or be destroyed or anything like that. Just no interaction or something like that, perhaps.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like I'm experiencing that now. I took a walk with a girlfriend the other night, and we were both talking about this shared experience of, you know, I live in Santa Fe, just outside of it. Santa Fe is a pretty small town. And we were talking about how it's amazing the people I don't run into. You know, I literally don't run into people I know who are on different pages. I have not seen them in a year and a half. And the people I run into are all the people who are on the same page, plus new people. You know, I bought a piece of furniture from someone off of Craigslist, and, you know, he lives a very different life, and, you know, he has a thick accent, and he's really devoted to his church. And yet, you know, very short conversation, we realized we were on the same page, and we were so excited. And I'm just realizing more and more that whatever my frequency I'm emitting, whatever resonance I'm living in, is I'm attracting those that are at the same, and I'm just not dealing with the other ones. And I don't muzzle my face, and that is the law here. And I don't have a problem anywhere I go. It's crazy how it just always seems to work out for me, and people have been really nice. I think a lot of it is the languaging. I think it might be the split that we're experiencing. And yeah, I love this idea. You know, it's certainly more appealing than everyone dying some horrible, painful death who doesn't get it. You know, like if we're just shifting in this dimension such that we're not interacting or engaging or in conflict, you know, that seems like the loveliest way it could possibly go down.
Yeah, and like another part, I think, of the thing that's happening is connected. So this is from something that you mentioned on the first part of the conversation. I can't remember exactly, but you were talking of maybe of the idea of a global mind, of how, do you remember the thing that you were saying? Like how we are all in a way connected. Well, so
When I was saying that we're all earthlings?
no, it was like more than half an hour ago, but
okay.
I in the moment when you said that, I was thinking about how also again in the material from the Law of One, they talk about the Akashic records as being like the first steps. So one of the beings that they channeled is called Ra, and apparently he is, or it, or whatever, is so I think the name is a social memory complex. So basically they are like all the beings, all the beings from Venus that graduated in the thing between like third density to fourth density. There's many concepts, but just they did that, the kind of graduation that we are going through, right? Maybe it's the same one or another octave or whatever, but they were doing this kind of graduation, and they are able to then be like one global mind, let's say. And so when you're talking to this entity, you are talking to a consciousness that has access to the consciousness of many smaller entities, right? That's kind of the idea. And the Akashic records here on Earth, they say it's the first steps in that direction for humanity. So kind of the thing that might happen is a way in which we can all connect to each other's knowledge and experience without the need to lose your own personality, your own individuality. But so again, the internet is something that's very similar to that. It's like a technological kind of thing where we can know almost all of the information of humanity at any given time without losing our own individual perspective. And I think this shift in perspective that I mentioned, I think is going to be one that allows us to have a larger perspective and at the same time keep the smaller one. It's like, you know how we forget this bigger aspect of ourselves? We keep forgetting that. So we're going to stop forgetting it, because the division, again, that they talk about here is this veil of forgetting between the conscious and the subconscious mind. And what we keep forgetting is our subconscious. Everything that's in the subconscious running as programs, we're not aware of them, but people from outside, they look at us and they say, oh, this guy, and they can see that, but we don't, because we are unaware, we have forgotten all those things. And I think that's part of the shift that's happening too.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I see we do have this egoic attachment to our bodies, to our personalities, to our identities. And that's something that we're all, you know, those of us who are awake are in some sort of constant dance with. And I think we all have access to the Akashic records now. It's just we've forgotten that we do. And I agree. I think these things will become easier and easier. I had a friend of mine has recently started to channel various beings from various dimensions, and he likes to practice with me because I'm very open. And this is kind of something that happens a lot with me. Like when people are just coming on to their spiritual superpowers, like I'm a good person for them to play with, because I'm like, yeah, let's play. It's all good. It's all easy. But he said to me, he was channeling a Pleiadian, and he said, you are Legion. And it just had something clicked for me, because I've had so many, you know, past life recollections or feelings or nuances, and yet it hasn't felt right to attach, like I am that being or I am that. And so more and more, I feel like in this incarnation, I'm a singular expression of multiple different energies and consciousnesses that are, you know, collaborating through me. So that's something new that I've been playing with, that might have something to do with what you're speaking about and what we're moving into, but just that I'm already multiple beings that just happens to look like this right now in this dimension.
Yeah, you know, I started doing Akashic Records readings myself, and it's amazing how sometimes you're speaking to others and like bringing information for them or about them, but at the same time, depending on the person, the information that might come is also very helpful for me, and even sometimes it like what you just said, it kind of nurtures my point of view, you know, or helps me expand it a bit. And I had once this idea that like this woman was connecting. We were getting messages from one of her past lives. It's so hard to express, but the idea was that the past lives are happening in parallel, so they are happening right now, kind of like what you were saying. And this past life was like a priestess, a very highly evolved spiritual person. And so the woman I was talking to, she didn't have she wasn't trusting so much in her own abilities. She's very, very like clairvoyant and stuff like that. She knows that she is also, but she kind of tends to not trust in herself, etc. And at a point, she already had an idea of another part of herself being more advanced, etc. And when she was talking to this other side of herself, this priestess told her that she was one of her guides, right? So she kind of inverted the thing, that like the supposed more advanced priestess was telling this less advanced woman that how powerful she was, that she was her the I don't know if I explained it correctly, but you know what I mean? The more advanced ones are looking at us, and I guess that they see, wow, they feel so limited, they believe themselves to be so limited that their example is amazing. This is what I think the higher perspective might be, you know, looking at us, feeling so limited, and them knowing what we really are.
Completely. I mean, that's the Earth game, right? That's why it's such a challenging game, and why we're all so courageous for even agreeing to take incarnation, because our memories are completely wiped, and it takes so much. At least for me, I know for some people it comes very easily, but to do the work and to remember these glimpses, you know, I've had multiple flashbacks to being in the Essenes and training Jesus. And having a lot of dance parties on the side. And that's been, you know, that's something that I'm aware of and have been aware of for quite a long time. But I was just having lunch with a friend last week, and it was relevant. It came up organically. It's not something I talk about much. But he said, oh, that's so fascinating, because most people put Jesus on this pedestal and that's their relationship to Jesus. And yet you are the one who was training Jesus. It's such a flip. And I hadn't really contextualized it. For all these years that I've had these flashbacks, there was something in him saying that where I was like, oh, right, I'm an advanced being, you know, like, and the, you know, the practice of remembering that and taking ownership of that. And that's something I'm just, you know, I feel like I'm still just dipping my toes into.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And yeah, it really resonates. I remember having a reading where, and it totally connects with this. I didn't get the Essenes particularly, but this woman asked me if she had to travel to Egypt. That was like the first question that she asked the records, right? And so I started getting images of her like dancing. You mentioned dance right now, and like dressed with clothes that felt like kind of like Egypt or something of the sort. And then the information that came resonates so much with what you were saying. It's like there was this group of people who were doing, this can be heresy for people, but I don't think anybody watching this might get offended with this. There was this group of people who were doing this kind of ritual that took many, many years and like different stages and in different parts of the world, who were doing this this ritual to basically to channel Jesus into Mary, right? So they were like trying to like bring an advanced being onto earth and have it be born, right, into a human body. So like it was a very intense revelation for me reading this information, like that this girl I was reading for had been part of that group, and her role was in a dance. They were doing this kind of energy work through dance to like, and I got this kind of like a vortex that came in the center of where they were dancing in a circle, and like this was kind of part of the energy of Jesus eventually, who would be born, and it was very, very wow for me, that moment.
Yeah, that's so cool that that kind of information is coming through you.
How much of the past we have no idea, or how much it might be malleable, that maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, but if we believe that it happened that way, we like create it and start living in the consequences of that creation that we're doing right now. And how much, and I mean, it wasn't like idea that didn't make any sense. It kind of made total sense that it could have happened that way. So we are going to start awakening to so many amazing things. I'm so sure we're going to recontextualize history, like the ideas of Atlantis and other kinds of civilizations and other moments or expressions of humanity.
Yeah, I agree. And I really like your certainty about it. It's very inspiring and encouraging.
You know, because I can't explain it, but people might call it intuition or affinity or whatever, but it's like these things where it's more like when I'm thinking about these possibilities, it feels so wonderful, you know, and not in a wishful way. But like it feels so particular, so specific for me, that it feels true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And that's, that goes back to what we were talking about in the first half about the real return of the divine feminine is honoring our knowingness and what we know to be true. And when we feel things so strongly, that matters, so I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your eyes, that this is a truth that you're tapping into.
Yeah, it was very powerful. And it was interesting too, that the other woman that I was talking about, she was also part of something of that, and Isis, some group of women that venerated Isis and worked with some kind of a mystery school or something. And then the next day I did that other reading of the woman with the dance and bringing Jesus. So like it was very, very palpable for me. It's so amazing that we can access these things. And also when learning to do this, one of the things that was so special for me was that I got this feeling that I've already done it before, reading the Akashic records, and you said that we all can do it and we've just forgotten. I got that impression exactly, like, this is so simple. I already know how to do this. I've done this before, and I'm remembering how to do this. And yeah, I'm very curious to continue exploring my own relationship with those groups, let's say, but I haven't gotten any new information on that yet. And yeah, amazing, people who are channeling entities. We were a few minutes ago talking about the things that we will start to, but they're already happening, and maybe even have been happening for how long have people been doing these channelings, and we could totally go to ancient times and see that they were doing that already. We think we're going to activate something new, but what we're going to do is we're going to remember that they are just dormant, these abilities. We've been through art, we've been expressing these things for so long. I think of books, movies, music, etc. We've been talking about humanity having powers that they have forgotten, and that somebody is gaining something through the people being asleep, and that suddenly people wake up again. We've been talking about this story, and we are like conjuring it and bringing it every day more and more, until one day I hope that happens in our lifetime. I don't know why, because I, in a way, I still feel like I am me and you are you. But definitely, if it doesn't happen in this lifetime, we'll definitely come back and be able to enjoy the fruits of the work that we're doing today.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to come back. I've had, I'm very clear that a lot of my work is, for the future. It's for future generations. And I've had people say, well, like, aren't you bummed to not experience heaven on earth? And not really, because I just feel like I exist in so many different places and so many dimensions. I'm not super attached to this one. But that being said, I do believe I have a knowingness around helping to disable the mortality codes. So this idea of our mortality, a lot of that is programmed into our language, and that program that we have to die is a fiction and a lie that is disseminated through language. And I, more and more, and I haven't done a lot of videos about it yet, I will at some point, but I know that my work here, a piece of it is to help illuminate the mortality codes embedded in language and support people in transmuting them. And once we stop speaking those, then that's going to change the whole game. And I do feel like, whether I like it or not, that is part of my work here. So we'll see how that affects my own relationship to mortality. Who knows?
That's a very interesting idea. I wanna go into it a little bit if you want.
Sure.
How I don't know if you know about this guy called Alejandro Jodorowsky.
No.
Okay, so he's like a Renaissance man of today. He's like, I don't know, maybe 90 or something. He made these pretty psychedelic, crazy movies in the 70s and in the 60s. And
Jodorowsky, is that who we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he does like a million things. He reads tarot. He creates psycho magic and blah blah blah. A million things. Comic books. He does workshops, etc., etc. And he has like this. It's like for me, it's like he kind of cracked the code of something. So he allows himself to express through infinite different streams of expression, right? So and I remember him saying once that he had programmed himself to live, I don't remember the age, but like to live to 100 or something like that. And that made an impression on me, him saying that he had programmed, which means many of us have already programmed ourselves to not be able to get to that age, or the programming of like how we see old people, in nursing homes, and they're all drugged up, and they're like, the old people are like useless. They don't have a place in our society today. I don't mean that they are useless. I mean, it's the idea we're being
totally
shown, right? Like old people have no place in society, and it's so sad sometimes, to see what we have chosen to do with that.
I agree. It's heartbreaking. I mean, these are our elders. These are our wisdom keepers. These people have so much experience and so much life. And part of, one of the many inversions that we're living out is the elevation of youth over elderhood and wisdom, which makes no sense. And it just shows how shallow our society is, right? It's all about, I was heard some song, I think it might have been Tom Petty, but he was talking about like a woman in her prime. And in our culture, prime is like tits and ass and like how smooth your skin is, and not like our abilities or the quality of our character, or, you know, how well we've honed our crafts and talents. So that's all a big mind fuck that I'm excited for us to get away from. When we look at time, you know, it's been completely co-opted. Look at the Gregorian calendar. I don't know how it is in your native tongue, but here, you know, October is the 10th month, but oct means 8. And December is the 12th month, but dec means 10. So if we're going to create a system of measurement, regardless of what we're measuring, you would think it would make sense, that it would be easy to follow, that there would be integrity to it. There's no integrity to our timing structures.
And what is it that they inserted in the middle? I think where the shift starts happening is in July, right? And July and then August. And those are two names of like Roman emperors for sure.
Exactly, it's ego. So we have ego in the middle of our calendar, and then we look at, you know, 30 days in some months, 31 in another, 28, 20. I mean, it's completely ass backwards. And that's not an accident, you know, like that, it just doesn't make sense. And then you look at our relationship to time, we don't really understand what time is, because time is a fourth dimensional measure, and we have third dimensional brains. So we think it's linear, but it actually isn't. And the way that we talk about time, it's always comparison. It's temporal comparison. It's, is this person older than I am? Is this person younger than I am? It's all ego-based, right? Like a heliocentric universe is all about the sun is in the center. So it's, when we are dealing with time, it's all about us, as though we are the baseline. And so you ask an 8-year-old, you know, to an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old is young, a 12-year-old is old. To a 30-year-old, the 12-year-old is young, the 50-year-old is old. So it's all, there's no regularity to it. And so, and then you look at the word old, that's not something that's really valued or lauded in this culture. Maybe in terms of an old growth forest, but in general, exactly as you were saying, how we treat our elderly is not something to be proud of at all. So then look at the question, and again, I'm not sure what it is in your native tongue, but here in America, it's how old are you? So it's a curse right off the bat, because old is not something that we value. And every, you know, I'm 9 years old, I'm 20 years old, I'm 30 years old. So that's all a curse, right? And then we have these ideas that are programmed in of what's supposed to happen at specific times, and when we're supposed to retire, and what a crone is. And all of these are cultural fictions that are meant to enslave us.
Well,
and
in Spanish, what they say is, ¿cuántos años tienes? How many years do you have? So it's similar. It's kind of like you have a jar and you put a year in, and it's heavy and you have to carry it year by year.
Oh, that's interesting. And so how do you see, you're in Uruguay, right?
Yes.
So what is the relationship to time there? Like, do women get, you know, are they getting Botox and facelifts, and is that whole thing happening? Is time being demonized there the same way it is being demonized here?
Well, definitely not the same way. I think that the US has this incredible place in human history and human future. Like I see like an incredible potential in the US because of how much access to anything you guys have over there. Here, like getting surgeries and stuff like that, I wouldn't say people don't do it, because of course they do. But it's not something that is that much accessible to people. So I don't think people do it too much. But the more accessible way of quote unquote demonizing time is, for example, clothes or going to the hairdresser and makeup and stuff like that. So like when you were speaking before, I was thinking of how it's not only that, it's more like the prime that you were saying, the prime of like 18, 20, forever 21, right? Those kind of things. Because I was thinking like, if you go back, there's a certain point where you kind of tend to want to go forward or the conscious idea. So it's like babies dressed like teenagers or 20-year-olds, right? So with the jeans and the Adidas sweatshirts and whatever, and instead of being dressed just like babies. So it's like they want us all to be like 18, or I don't know what the thing is.
Yeah, well, there are multiple nefarious intentions at play, right? Like, I mean, bottom line is we live in a world that is run by satanic pedophiles. So they try to make these, babies and children look older to sort of rationalize and justify the disgusting ways that they're using them and engaging them. And then they want everyone else chasing youth, because they just want us to feel crappy about ourselves and to have to, to keep the matrix running by chasing their products. I feel like just the syntax of I have this many years versus I am this many.
You froze up for a moment there. Yeah, okay, we're back.
So you asked me a question, would you ask again?
You were talking about the people going to, the justification from the Satanist pedophiles that we shouldn't mention because they block the internet, justifying the everybody like babies being dressed like adults and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think what I was talking about when it froze up was the difference in syntax of how in
of the age.
How so in your native tongue it's I have 20 years, whereas here it would be I am 20 years. So I am, we know how powerful those words are. So all of a sudden our age becomes our identity, versus where it's something I have, there's a little more distance. Like I have a cup, I'm holding it. I am a cup, now it's in me. So I think it creates, it exacerbates the unhealthy relationship that people in this country have towards age and time. And so, I mean, very, very kindergarten basic when it comes to mortality codes is I don't speak about age. I don't speak about those things. I move through the world as a timeless being. I'm not considering you as, is this person older than I am? Is this person younger than I am? We're contemporaries because we're sharing the present moment. We don't know how many more present moments we have. So for me, and the way that I choose to language my life is I'm not concerned with those things. If someone asks me how old I am, I'm not interested in being cursed by anyone. So, and, if you're going to ask me how many years I have, really, when we get down to it, it's just like, is she older than I am? Is she younger than I am? It's just that comparison. And then it's projecting whatever our programming is around the amount of years people have. We project that onto other people. So then that creates a feedback loop that we internalize. So the way that I'm learning to language it is just, I don't even have those conversations. I'm an internal being, playing a now moment game. And it frees me up from experiencing or manifesting the things that culture would have me believe I'm supposed to manifest with a certain amount of years. It just frees me from that game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like those pre-established landmarks that, by certain time you must have done this or that. And another way could be maybe, because in the end a year is a spin or a turn around the sun, so maybe how many suns or something.
Exactly. I mean, that has been, I've taken to asking how many sun spins have you collected, but people generally don't know what I'm saying, but I just notice a hang up around the time thing that doesn't really serve us. So
the comparison thing, I see.
Yeah, it's all comparison. And so, I mean, I would encourage, you to play with it, and the people watching this is just start to notice any conversation around time and how it's really an egoic comparison that's based like whoever's doing the asking, and what does it matter, you know? And to just free ourselves from anything that's going to put a pin in us, because that's the other thing that time does, is it makes things static. When we're evolving, we're always moving. So the fewer pins we have in us, the more free we are to do whatever we want and to be whatever we want. And these time things are just like pins that get in the way.
And when you mentioned time being a fourth dimensional measure, I mean, that was key. It's one of those things that we already kind of intuitively know and understand, but we don't necessarily focus too much on. And so this thing of the of dimensions, like mathematically, you know, going from the point to the line to the square to the cube to the hypercube. So time would be like in the hypercube realm or something, which I don't really know how to think about it very much. But when I've done readings or read my own Akashic records, and even sometimes before even starting to do this work, I would get these kind of intuitions of time and of the perspective that these higher entities, we could say, that they have, is more like they look at time from outside. So they kind of see like actually in one of the readings, they expressed it like a tree or like roots. And there is like this main root that has different exits along the way. And you could say like your purpose or your path in life is the central trunk of the thing. And so they can see it from outside. It's mind-boggling, but they can like see it from above, like on a black background and the white line moving, and they're seeing it like from the outside, and they are able to like interfere, or not interfere in a bad sense, but interact with the timeline and like drop clues, drop synchronicities, drop meetings, or move different branches closer to each other so that they interact in certain points, so that both timelines feed each other or nurture each other, and then they spread outward again, but they have information that they've shared, and they're like able to move time in these ways, while at the same time not violating free will, which was the thing that we talked before. They're able to do all those things for the greater good, we could say.
And who are these beings that are doing this?
It's us. That's the most tricky thing, right? It's ourselves from the future, ourselves from outside time, our higher selves. It's us after the flip or the switch that we were talking about, I guess. Right?
I love that. I love that visual, like that. It's so helpful to see those tendrils, and I like the idea of moving the branches closer so that they converge. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so powerful when they give these new perspectives, which is what I think we're evolving towards. They are incredible, because the way that I see it, you know, you mentioned us living different lives, and I said that they are concurrent, they are happening now, they're at the same time. So it's kind of like they are like a hand inside a glove, right? And every finger is one life, maybe, but what each finger really is the hand that is coming into time, or like into the water, right? So you put your hand in the water and you only see the fingers, but there's a hand outside. So yeah, we're in for great surprises, great revelations for sure. This has been wonderful, Dani.
Yeah, so fun to talk to you. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. Yeah,
really. Thank you for being here. I really love, meeting new like-minded people. Every time that I listen to you with Emily, I get this this kind of brotherly feeling, this friendship, this thing. Like, I listen to you guys and I hear you say like things that I still don't dare to say myself, and like complaining about things, but at the same time not complaining for complaining, but because there is something to learn from pointing something out. I do that all the time, but but more in a private way. And yeah, and you really inspire me, you know, the using words to empower ourselves. And yeah, and when I started following you on Instagram, and I started seeing that you share some more like spiritual quotes and kind of UFO quotes or stuff like that, I started sensing, oh, okay, I see where we meet, you know, because again, people are very much into this all or nothing kind of thinking. And so if you read that book, The Right Use of Will, oh, so you believe in aliens, you believe in channeling, and you're crazy. And we believe in these things, but at the same time, we don't know. So the important thing is the message something that resonates? Does it help you in some way to live a more peaceful life, a more fulfilled life? Then who cares if it's actually a channel or just a guy with a great imagination or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I hope we can talk again sometime soon, and I wish you the best. I wish you the best for the rest of your week and your year and all of the work that you're sharing, right?
Thank you. I'm receiving all of that and sending the blessings right back your way.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Rafa. Bye.